Greenply Industries, that's seen a steady decline of about almost 30% since March as investors are worried about the demerger plan by the company. Mubina, but what's really spooking the investors? I mean, why are they so concerned about the demerger plan?
Well, it was announced in March, and just, before I tell you why they are concerned, let me just brief our viewers on what exactly is this demerger plan. As we know, Greenply is in the manufacture and the marketing of plywood as well as MDF, which is a very up-and-coming business line that a lot of these plywood industries want to do. Plywood companies want to get into. Now, essentially, what it decided back in March, and which, of course, it did recently get the board approval for, is that it is going to essentially demerge its MDF business as well as a bit of its ply business, which was attached to the MDF. It's just about one plant. So that chunk together would be demerged into another company called Greenpanel. Now, this would mean that about 780 crore rupees in terms of revenues for FY18 would be demerged into Greenpanel, and Greenpanel subsequently would be listed on the BSE as well as NSE. The rationale cited by the company was the fact that the businesses, that's plywood as well as MDF, are at different stages of maturity naturally, because plywood, of course, is a legacy business. MDF is a more newer and up-and-coming business. In fact, the management also told us about how MDF is usually used in furniture, in different kind of businesses, more B2C business, whereas plywood, of course, as we know, has its own nature. They both would require dedicated focus. They both would require flexibility in operations, as well as the fact that the nature of technology as well as capital intensity of both the businesses do differ. Now, what are the street concerns? Well, firstly, Greenply, a well-known brand, but Greenpanel, not so much. So there would be incremental efforts in relation to essentially promoting Greenpanel into making it a brand as popular as the likes of a Greenply, as a Green Lamp for that matter, Century. Greenpanel would still need a lot of effort to get there. It would obviously mean higher administration costs, separate administration costs, more distribution costs. The company would have to spend on distribution channel to push Greenpanel out there to consumers. That would resultantly take time to become profitable naturally. The benefits of economies of scale as well would be diminished now that the two companies would be separate, and it would essentially dilute Greenply's position in the market now that it will be selling only ply. So compared to a Century plyboard, which of course has its comprehensive list of products to offer, Greenply will now be offering only plywood. So it may dilute Greenply's position in the market. Hence, if you'll just pull up the last 3 odd months chart, you'll see the kind of decline that Greenply has actually posted. Almost about 25 to 30 odd% gone in the last 3 months. In fact, in the last 1 month itself, Greenply has lost almost about 17%. So there is a bit of concern in the market in relation to why exactly is this company undertaking this demerger. And with that attempt to get that answered, we connected with Mr. V. Venkatramani, the CFO of Greenply Industries, to join us now on the show. Mr. Venkatramani, thanks so much for joining us on ET Now. To start with, let's understand your own rationale, because we understand that your MDF as well as some of your ply business will be demerged into Greenpanel. So give us your explanation, your rationale on why you're doing this.
The two businesses are basically different, although both are wood-based industries. Plywood is more of a residential segment product, used by high-end consumers, whereas MDF is used more for manufacturing ready-made furniture. And the distribution network is different. The raw material usage is different. In plywood, we use wood of a more mature tree, whereas in MDF, it's trees which have had a smaller life cycle. So primarily, these were the reasons why we did the demerger of the two businesses.
Okay, Mr. Venkatramani, would you remain, or rather what would remain then of Greenply post the demerger? Because that's the key question, I guess, in everyone's mind.
So we will basically have 3 plywood manufacturing units, the trading business in plywood, and the Myanmar and Gabon paste veneer units with Greenply.
Okay, given that now Greenpanel will have to turn into a B2C company, build its brand, etc., this would naturally lead to higher expenses. So, and of course, even higher distribution costs. So how would the demerger benefits, as you've explained, justify these higher costs?
Greenpanel's business comprises primarily of MDF, which is more of a commodity as compared to Greenply. So even today, it does not really sell by brand. It's more by reasons of quality and pricing, which determines the volumes for the product. But going forward, yes, because we believe that in order to maintain our realizations and margins, we have to create a long-term differentiator for the product. So we will be doing extensive branding for the green panel products.
Right. So how much of the additional expenses are we looking at for green panel?
Not much of ancillary expenses, because even today the production teams are different, the marketing teams are different. So I think it will primarily be some increase in corporate manpower and IT expenses. So not any significant increase in expenses for both the companies.
So what percentage of revenues of Greenply would now be moved to green panel?
The MDF business is moving to green panel, and along with it, a small part of the plywood business, which is located at the same plot of land in which the MDF unit is located in Uttarakhand. So since it could not be physically separated, it's going into green panels. About 47% of the company's revenues will move to green panel.
Right. So with the new greenfield expansion plan for MDF being moved to green panel, plus the extra brand building expenses, there would definitely be some pressure on profitability. How long before green panel will be able to break even?
Yeah, I think we would have lower margins, primarily because the new unit will have lower capacity utilizations as compared to the current MDF unit. And there would also be a significant mix of exports in the new unit, which has lower realization. So although the existing MDF unit would be able to maintain its margins, the new unit will have significantly lower margins.
Okay, so if you could just explain, Mr. Venkatramani, to our viewers, how will this demerger be a wealth creator for shareholders? Because, like I said earlier, there are concerns in relation to higher expenses, incremental efforts that the management will have to take. So if you could just help shareholders assuage all those concerns.
We won't see any significant increase in expenses because of the demerger. And anyway, even if there had not been a split, there would still have been some impact on the MDF margins because of the new unit operating at lower capacity utilizations. But yes, as far as the plywood business is concerned, I think we would be able to improve our margins in the current year, because we would be shifting the phase linear purchases from Myanmar and Indonesia to Gabon, where costs would be significantly lower. So that would help us to improve the plywood margins. And yes, on a value basis, we would also be able to improve the MDF earnings.
Okay, just one quick clarification, because given that Greenply and Greenlam will both be selling ply now, green panel as well to a certain extent, how will you manage your region demarcation, distribution, etc.? Will distribution be completely split now?
No, I don't think there would be any demarcation in regions, but we would be, operating on a separate brand. So green panels plywood would be sold under the green panel brand. We will not be using the Greenply brand. And yes, we are in the process of building a separate distribution network so that it does not clash with the Greenply's plywood distribution network.
Okay, Mr. Venkatramani, we'll leave it at that. And thanks so much for providing that clarification on how exactly the demerger is panned out, because I guess that was the key concern on investors' mind.